This is the Our Auto Expert Podcast. Find us on air, online, on mobile, and on your smart speaker. Please subscribe at ourautoexpert.com.
Our Auto Expert. Our Auto Expert. Our Auto Expert. Our Auto Expert.
Now, here's the host of Our Auto Expert,
Our Auto Expert,
Nick Miles.
Locally created, nationally celebrated from the Northwest to the Southeast, this is America's car radio show. If it has a throttle, we'll feature it on air, online, on mobile, or on smart speaker. This is Our Auto Expert. I'm your host, Nick Miles, along with truck girl Jen, who made my mouth drop open today.
Yeah.
She told me she liked an SUV.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Holy hell, what just happened in my life?
I know. I'm so in love with it.
What is it? Do you remember what it's called?
Yeah, it's the Range Rover Velar.
What? Velar what?
Velar.
Velar what?
Oh, yeah. No, you're going to have to say it.
SV Autobiography.
Thank you.
First of all, I was all about... I'm going to move my mic. Sorry, it's going to make a noise. I was all about the Lamborghini Urus. Mm-hmm. And then I drove this. And I was like, it's half the price. It's like $100,000-ish.
It's a sexy
And
SUV.
it makes loads of noise. I took Nicole, who used to be our head of sales, out to dinner last night.
Yeah.
And she's in the back giggling, like, "Oh, this is so nice! I got my own thermostat, and my seat control." And I was like, "Yeah, well, her car's from like 1972, I think." So
It's
clearly,
older than mine.
but it makes such a nice. So there's a Range Rover Velar SV autobiography, and it's really nice. Are you googling it now?
No.
I can't even tell you how nice it is. It's $90,790 starting price, 550 horsepower.
No wonder I like it.
Let me just tell you this: 550 horsepower, right?
Yeah.
550 horsepower. The Mustang GT 350 has like 529 horsepower, something like this. Mm-hmm. This has 550, and it's an SUV. MPG is around 20 miles a gallon. Highway 15. There's a new rating on MPG. So 15 city, 20 highway, and about 10 for Nick. Because my foot's a little bit heavy. And it's just great. It's amazing. Sunroof goes front to back. You can change all the sports modes. It has the really cool infotainment system. They were a bit choky when they first had this new double screen infotainment system. They had some bugs in them when they first came out. They've got that down. It's got this high-end leather seating. Well, you're frowning.
So it has more horsepower than the Corvette? The 2020 Vet.
What's the Vet? 2020 Vet? I thought it was 500 and...
Well, 2020 Vet, I think, is 495.
Yeah, so it has more. Yeah, right.
No wonder I like it.
55 more horsepower than the Vet, baby. SUV. Take that, Corvette. So I just have to say I'm driving in that. It's really cool. I
And you
really
have
like.
room.
We'll do some TV segments on
And
it.
you have room for dogs and
Yeah,
kids.
I don't get in that car.
and-
Are you drunk? You're not getting in that car. I'm not putting my dogs in a car which is $100,000.
I'm just saying versus a vet. Versus a vet.
Oh,
you
they
can-
don't fit in the vet.
Exactly.
So that's. But I would just say my dogs have their own car. They've had their own car for many years, and I just buy a cheap SUV that's reliable. I think I paid like $6,000 for the last SUV, and when I have nice cars, they get to ride in the SUV. It's really, really cool.
Well, the interior on it is also spectacular.
It's just such a good job. The heating, the seating position, everything. Masterfully done. Well done, Range Rover. You take the biscuit today. It's pretty amazing. We have a really good show today.
Yes, we
by the
do.
way, as opposed to the not really good shows that we
Hey,
normally
every show I do is a good show.
we're going to get to talk to James Bell about the Kia Seltos. I drove this Kia Seltos in Texas,
I know.
and I was pretty
By the way,
impressed.
Nick drives them all. Keep going.
No. Porsche doesn't like me.
Yeah, I know. Why?
McLaren doesn't like me.
No, that's not true.
Bentley doesn't like me.
No, Bentley's going to be on.
Oh, all right. Bentley likes
loves
me.
you.
I like you, Bentley. You're my
Unless
best
Bentley
friend.
likes me.
The Kia Seltos is this small SUV. It's not the smallest they make, but it's about the same size as a Soul, but it's all-wheel drive. They did a really good job on contenting this vehicle out for not a lot of money. It's around low $20,000, like $22,000. They did a great job with that.
I like the look of it, too.
So we are going to talk about the Civic a little bit today because I have been driving a Honda Civic and it blows my mind that this vehicle is so good and it's been around for such a long time, but the new versions are so good. GV80, which is Genesis's new SUV. Kevin Smith's going to be on. He's the chief bottle washer over at Genesis. And he is such a nice guy. He used to be at Lotus.
Chief bottle washer?
Yeah, he's in charge of all bottle washing over at
yeah,
Genesis.
he's going to love you.
That's a term of endearment.
I thought it was like senior group manager.
Yeah, that's what his title
is.
He's in charge of like all of the cool stuff. He's going to tell us about the GV80, which, by the way, for $50,000 starting price, hello, people like Range Rover better be careful.
I know, another winner.
Another winner of what?
Yeah, GV80. It's another winner. Another one I like.
Some of our colleagues, including Jeff Zurschmeide and Andy and Mercedes Lilienthal and a bunch of other guys, are driving the Alcan rally lot right now. Yeah, good luck to that. Minus 2 million degrees.
I know.
We're going to talk to them as they drive up on the Alcan rally. Toyota, the Avalon and Camry all-wheel drive has finally arrived. They are still the best-selling sedan in America without all-wheel drive, which means if you live in a snow state, now you have the option of getting an Camry.
I love it.
I put them together. It was Camry and Avalon. It's an Amri now. You can drive an Amri in all-wheel drive, which I want to see how well they did with that. It's going to be interesting. And Anton Wahlman's going to join us. There's been a lot of really interesting news around NTSB, around some European electric car sales. China car sales are plunged. Coronavirus, all of these things going on. So
and
we're going to talk about
Polestar.
that. And Polestar as well. Yeah, we're going to talk about that. We've got a lot of today's show packed with deliciousness.
Jam-packed.
Just in case you didn't know. You can, of course, always listen to the show by going to our website at ourautoexpert.com. There you will find lots of really cool videos, car reviews. You'll see my review of the new Corvette C8, which I drove in the Las Vegas area, and find out whether this is a true Corvette, by the way. It wasn't the Corvette I was expecting. You have to watch the video to find out. You'll also hear the previous episodes of this show. They're all in podcast form. You can download them. You can do whatever you want with them. Well, close to whatever you want with them. And also you can read some great articles by Perry Stern and Mike Meredith and R. Voss. If you want to read about a car, it's probably bound to be there. That's all coming up on the show.
You're listening to Our Auto Expert.
All right, catch up with previous episodes of the show by going to the website, ourautoexpert.com. You can hear all of our shows, see automotive videos, read insider car stories about your next ride. You'll find it all at ourautoexpert.com. I recently got to spend some time in San Antonio, Texas, driving the brand new Kia Seltos. And who better to talk to us about that than the guy that shakes all the hands and signs all the checks at Kia, James Bell, joining us on the phone.
Does he kiss babies, too?
Do you kiss babies, James?
Oh, no matter what they look like, of course.
There's a joke there, but I'll keep it to myself.
Thank you very much.
The Seltos, by the way, congratulations, Kia, because you have managed, you started off your little chat with us when we were in San Antonio to say what car has launched 2 years ago that's still on a waiting list for around 4 months, which is, of course, your award-winning Telluride. Namely, the best award that it won was my SUV of the year last year.
Of course.
It seems to be a trend for you, and the Seltos, although you usually don't find vehicles this small winning many awards, it probably is going to win a bunch because you've managed to get sort of sophisticated styling together with a well-engineered package, and the content, I will say, is probably second to none that you've managed to put in for the price.
Well, this is the give it everything premise of Kia. It's how we design, how we build and engineer the vehicles. And if I could just touch real quick on something you said there, Nick, about the engineering. I sound like a bit of a broken record here, but it's still true. You know, we've got one of the best suspension and handling magicians in the business by the name of Albert Bierman on our team, and I was so hopeful after he did he waved his magic wand over the Stinger that we would see that kind of drip onto everything else in our lineup, and we could see it in the Telluride. Not saying that the Telluride is sporty, but it is very coordinated. It feels very athletic and agile, which for a vehicle that size is kind of a surprise. And I think what we found, having the drive there in Texas, as you mentioned, is that the Seltos picks right up on that. It's not, again, you're not going to go looking for some canyon to go blasting through, chasing up Mustangs or Porsches or something like that. But you come into an off-ramp a little faster than you maybe should be, or there's a spot in traffic you want to jump into, or you just want to have a little bit of a grin in your daily slog to and from work. I think the Seltos might deliver that, and we really do attribute that back to our magician, Mr. Bierman.
I love Albert for many reasons, but one of the reasons that several times I've driven at events with him in the last year or so, and one of the times, every time I get out of a car, he goes, "What do you think?" And I go, "Well, it was good. I was surprised at the comfort and the responsiveness." He goes, "What about the left-hand turn when you're going about 75?" And I'm like, "Wow, dude." Well, I didn't log how that was personally, but the whole experience was pretty amazing. Yeah, he's an amazing guy. Came, of course, from the BMW M division, so he has some extremely good pedigree, and now that he's tuning your vehicles. I want to also turn to the design of this, because when everybody's doing these sort of, I guess, lackluster, roundy SUVs that don't have features that stand out, you've given us something that has a very square, a very modern, a very rugged appeal. Is this the idea? I mean, on the back of Telluride, there's a lot of pressure on you.
Yeah, well, yes. We think that an SUV should kind of look like an SUV and buck against a lot of the current trend. And not to say that the next generation Sportage might not be more of following in the more futuristic look, because that's kind of what the Sportage represents in our lineup. But for vehicles that we think people are going to treat a little bit more like a utility of old, like the Telluride, like the Seltos, then that boxier outside makes more room inside. It's just a fact of physics. You make it too angular and swoopy and sporty looking, you're cutting down the U in utility part.
Yeah.
And so, so we really wanted to maximize that. What's fascinating about the Seltos is, of course, it shares a lot of its bones or skeleton, if you will, with the Hyundai Kona, which is also, North American Car of the Year award winner, a huge success for Hyundai. So a lot of the componentry is shared there. But if you sit the two vehicles side by side, you can see where the Kona is, again, and there's a reason for it. They're selling them, but it's more of a slave to fashion. It's more of a, let's make it look a little more, swoopy and sporty than utility. And so we went a different direction with the Seltos, which we think has appeal. And then, as we already discussed, you throw Bierman into the mix, and you make the thing be a real pleasure to drive. So
the other thing, I mean, it does have plenty of room, James, and I will tell you that I'm a very wide guy, and when I sit in seats, my shoulders tend to, if you have these tight racing seats, I don't fit very well in them, just because I'm very broad, wide side. At the same time, I'm comfortable in this, but also the lesser statured lady that I was driving with on this event, she was extremely comfortable in it, and we had room for whatever we needed in the vehicle. But the thing that amazes me is the fact that you have packed so much technology into a vehicle. When you buy a vehicle like this, it's usually stripped. I mean, if someone's paying $22,000 for a vehicle, the more money you pay, the bigger the size it gets, obviously. But it doesn't get less content. You as standard equipment, you've packed it full of stuff and then given us a few options too.
Well, thank you for bringing up that price. Yeah, at about $22,900, as you say, so let's call it $23,000. We developed something rather interesting. Every Seltos is going to have all-wheel drive, automatic. Right. I mean, standard.
That's a $4,000 option in many other competition manufacturers.
That's right. And it separates the vehicle from being, an SUV or utility kind of poser, a front-wheel drive little scootabout, as opposed to saying, hey, look, we can lock the rear diff here and we can get serious, or the center lock, I should say. But yes, what I think was really fascinating, what our marketing and our pricing team did was say, let's do every vehicle with all-wheel drive. So you get that, for lack of a better reason, there's an all-wheel drive badge on the side. So when people see a Seltos, they'll think, this is actually a proper little machine. This can do some things that maybe my RAV4 or my CRV could not do. But then at that entry-level price, at about $23,000, we gave an option. We said you can either go with an S model that is up content, has more safety and creature comfort features and a little nicer look and feel with front-wheel drive, or you can stick with the all-wheel drive system in the LX model, which is our baseline, but this being Kia, that doesn't mean, as you said, it's a strippo. So we do have that front-wheel drive, all-wheel drive option just at the least expensive price. And when I remember seeing that come across from our pricing department, I thought it was a little bit crazy. But now after speaking to folks like yourself at our event and other in the media and some of the early customers that are already buying the car, because it is in dealers, in showrooms now, it seems to be making perfect sense. So we've done it again.
How do you feel that most automakers hate you now?
Love it. Are you kidding me? I wake up every day and I look in the mirror as I'm shaving and I say, oh, they hate me.
It's interesting that a lot of automakers, like the Ford Explorer against the Telluride. It's like the Telluride is doing what the Ford Explorer ST comes in at. The Telluride top of the line is. So you're going to do the same with Seltos, aren't you? You're going to just turn everything upside down. You're going to give people more for their money. 100,000 mile warranty on the vehicle, which of course you're famous for. Upgraded interior, loads of space, loads of electronics, lots of safety systems, styling, driving dynamics, 2 different engine choices, a 2-liter and a 1.6. What else is there to do? You're just ruining everything for every other automaker, aren't you?
Not only that,
you, remind them all of that.
Not only that, for the price, it looks, just looking at it, it looks luxurious. It's not like, a less expensive vehicle that's just boxy and plain.
Yeah.
I love the two-tone colors and the way that it lays out. And
you did a good job, my friend.
Yes, you did.
And it's all you.
Wait till you see it at nighttime when you get those LED lights, or especially around dusk when the DRLs are still on before the headlights come on. Mm-hmm. Those DRLs go almost all the way across the entire front of the car in a real thin little white line. Looks badass.
I missed that part. James Bell, he is my friend. He is in charge of all the public relations over there at Kia. He's a great guy. The car is a great car. The new Seltos in dealers right now, starting just under $23,000. If you're in the market for a small SUV, that should be on your test drive list. More Our Auto Expert. You won't believe what we've got coming up, and you'll have to stand by for that.
You're listening to the Our Auto Expert podcast.
Our Auto Experts on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and you can start a conversation with us. Your questions are greatly appreciated. Just direct your messages to us at Our Auto Expert. One of the cool things about it is we don't ever call you out, but we answer your questions if we can. I had a question recently from a fan who wanted to know whether the Honda Civic was still a good buy. And so I test drove one the other day. In fact, I'm still test driving it. Let's talk about the Civic overall. The Type R is amazing. Mm-hmm. The SI, which I have been driving, is even amazing. The Coupe is amazing. I actually forgot how cool and modern they were. And some of the new color palettes as well. They have these grays that they've come out with, these dark blue grays that I think are absolutely outstanding. So they've done some really good jobs with the color palettes. The one I have been driving. When I have been driving is the coupe version, and I find the coupe version to be my favorite. There may be others that you find to be your favorite, but it comes, of course, in the 4-door, the 2-door. You can get a variety of different engines for the vehicle, and it comes with Honda Sensing as standard, which is every Civic comes with the Sensing, a full safety suite, driver aggressive technologies designed to assist and help protect you, which is kind of cool, making sure that you get things like collision mitigation braking systems involved in the vehicle. One of the problems that you can often have, especially when I'm driving in traffic, if you have to make a left or a right turn, you're edging forward, it wouldn't be unthinkable that I had bumped the car in front of me because I got too close. I'm watching the road where I'm going to go, and they haven't pulled away yet. And I've just tapped them on the bumper. No damage. Everyone was fine. But collision mitigation can help stop that. They also have the road departure mitigation system as well, which is another system that I recommend everybody getting, because as soon as you wander over those lines, it tells you off. They start around $20,000, $20,650 for the LX model, and the Touring, which is the top of the line, goes all the way up to around $27,700. The Touring comes with things like Honda satellite linked navigation system, a 450-watt premium audio system, LED headlights with auto on and off, 18-inch alloy wheels, and many more features. Leather trims start on the EXL. And then, of course, you could choose to compare the vehicles. I found that going to the Honda website was super useful because I end up finding cool stuff on comparing different models as well. Very different than driving the vehicle that I have been driving as well, which is that Land Rover, Range Rover, Velar SV Autobiography. Is that the longest name of a car you ever heard?
I just never heard a car have an
Land Rover,
autobiography.
Range Rover, Velar, SV Autobiography, which is 7 words for the name of one car.
They should just name it.
SV Autobiography could be one word technically, but then it would be Autobiography. But it's SV Autobiography, which again has 500 plus horsepower, has a really nicely put, and it has a button in there where you can enhance the exhaust.
I like the
which
seat.
I like to do because I like people to notice me when I'm driving away.
I like how they have the heated seat button. So you turn it to determine what you want, and then you just push it, and then it heats the seats to that temperature.
I like that too.
It's pretty
Has
stylish.
massage too. Did you have the massager on?
No.
Oh.
Well, you
When
didn't-
I pulled out to go to dinner last night,
Darn it.
I had my spouse in the front, and I had my friend Nicole in the back. And of course, I just revved it a little going down the street because I wanted them to experience that sound. And I got my other half turned to me and went, "Stop it! Stop it!" And so we got to the end of the street, and then I have to pull out onto another street before I hit the main road.
Did you
I
just
pulled out and I
it?
gunned it a little bit,
Yeah.
but I didn't gun it like, and it's like, "Hey, stop."
You got told.
And then we got out onto the freeway, not the freeway, but the main road, and I floored it a little bit just to hear it.
You did that with me this morning.
And that wasn't flooring it, Jen.
Well, true, but
That
we
was-
only had like 500 feet of room.
So and then I put it down. Then I got the old thump in the arm.
Oh.
It was like, stop. I remember taking a friend of mine in the back of the car that never ridden with me before. I have to be controlled because I can be a little spirited.
Yeah,
in
that's
my
why I have
driving.
to ride in the front seat with you.
I have to be controlled. And my spouse turned to the friend in the back seat and said, "Hey, you've never driven with Nick before, have you? Welcome to my life."
We have the barf bags in the back seat.
No, although I have to tell you, I went to the Corvette launch recently. They had special bath bags that fit over your nose and mouth so the bath doesn't go everywhere.
Nice.
All right, you're not going to guess what's coming up. Stand by. It's going to be fun. Our auto expert.
You're listening to Our Auto Expert.
Our auto expert is changing the way that you find out information about cars. 2 million Americans get their information by reading some of the most informative car reporting, seeing videos along with the newest technology, the latest cars. You can even download the nation's car radio show podcast at ourautoexpert.com. Now, going beyond the objective of rethinking luxury, the Genesis GV80 ushers in a new era of what modern luxury should be with a mantra of less is more. The GV80's exterior design highlights the beauty of white space while delivering a punctuating presence. The refined crest grille acts as the perfect centerpiece to complementary horizontally dynamic exterior theme. We saw the vehicle unveiled just before the Super Bowl in Miami, and the gentleman who was in charge, who stood behind the curtain and orchestrated everything, was Kevin Smith. He joins us on the phone to talk about the GV80. So, Kevin, this is the vehicle that has been one of the most anticipated from Genesis in a while. You had 3 sedans in your lineup, and you've added your first SUV. Well received?
Very well received, extremely well received, and we're thrilled to see that.
I noticed that there was a lot of NFL players at your launch, and they seem to be very impressed. Did you get some orders from an NFL players during the launch in Miami?
We may just have a few. We're the official luxury vehicle of the NFL, so we've had an ongoing relationship with the league overall, and a good ongoing relationship with many of the players as well. That's entirely possible, though. They like to keep that kind of thing private.
Oh, okay. Let's talk a little bit about this. The GV80 is going to compete directly with the German manufacturers. A lot of the existing luxury vehicles in that size, it's sort of the BMW X5, the GLE from Mercedes, is the same size as this vehicle. But many of the automakers have went to front-wheel drive versions, but you decided to stick with a rear-wheel drive version and an all-wheel drive option. What was the reason really for going rear-wheel drive?
Genesis as a brand has always been rear-wheel drive only. We have our own platforms that are exclusive to us. No one else shares them with us. And we've always been rear-wheel drive for our three sedans, the G70, G80, G90. It made perfect sense that this GV80 SUV would be rear-wheel drive as well. It's going to ultimately share this same platform with the new G80 sedan.
So this was the first one out of the gate, the GV80 as SUV, and then when the sedan comes along, it will share presumably some of those driving dynamics. I noticed when we spent some time together and did some TV in Chicago, where the car was first on the floor of any auto show, one of the things that you showed me was the amount of versatility, especially in the back and the back rows. You made it very simple to operate, so somebody could have all the rows up or all the rows down, and you wanted to make it easy for someone to be able to access the space and utility of the vehicle.
Yeah, we wanted to make it very usable. We set out when we designed and developed the GV80 to make a great Genesis, first and foremost. And secondarily, it needed to be a great SUV as well. But we wanted it to be a pure Genesis through and through, and we've done that with the ease of use and functionality that it has. You can stand right at the back of the vehicle with the hatch open, with the rear tailgate open, and there are switches for the middle row and the rear row as well. If it's equipped with the rear row, that's optional. But the middle row seats fold automatically at the press of a button. You do have to manually fold them back up if you want them back up. The third row, if the vehicle is equipped with it, will fold automatically with the push of a button or fold back up at the push of a button as well. It's very functional, very user-friendly.
So it's easy to get them up and down if you're taking, you need the third row usage for extra passengers, or if you need the space for luggage, you can just operate it from the back. I think I very rarely see anything outside of the super luxury vehicles that is as well designed on the inside as this. And there's plenty of mediocre vehicles in the US that we don't waste our time talking about it. We only enjoy our time talking about the vehicles that we're impressed by, and definitely impressed by the interior of the GV80. Not only do you have sort of this wood treatment throughout the interior, but everything is padded, everything is diamond stitched, everything is finished nicely with chrome bevels. You have a vent that goes all the way across the front. There seems to be an awful lot going on here, and worked hard to give it sort of that cockpit luxury yacht feel.
Absolutely, and we call this, and you mentioned it in the opening, I think, Nick, the beauty of white space. It's an architectural design philosophy in Korea where you want to have a very clean, uncluttered, minimalist almost look to the space, and it seems roomier and simpler and easier to use that way. And all of those capabilities and attributes are true of the GV80. If you look throughout the cabin, we have the knurled chrome surround rings for cup holders and things like that. It's pure luxury all the way to the third row in the back. If you sit in the third row, you've got all the amenities and luxury accoutrement that you have in the second row or the first row. It's a beautiful, beautiful space inside the cabin of this GV80.
And to give you sort of extra space in there, you've managed to utilize some of the center arm console there to have stuff underneath, like your power ports, where you can store a phone or that sort of thing. You can close off the cup holders, which means that you get a much smoother and much larger wood space as well. And even the padding down, the knee padding, you've actually thought, well, what happens if someone bumps their leg or their knee as they're getting in or out? You wanted to make sure that it was well thought out. One of the things that I noticed, haven't got to play with because obviously we haven't driven this yet and we'll have to wait until the summer to do that, but one of the things that I noticed is it seems to be equipped with a lot of technology. There's a big screen and there's also driver gauges, which are a large screen instead of having the regular driver gauges. So you seem to have a technology packed in this. When we get to play with that, will we see a lot of new technology?
You will see a lot of new technology. The large screen on the center of the dash at the top is a 14.5-inch diagonal screen that's a split screen into 3 different segments if need be for various information and getting the different features of the vehicle. The instrument cluster itself is a 3D instrument cluster with a lot of information and a screen in it as well. And the HVAC system, if you notice, is actually not the typical, chiclet-sized buttons all over the place. It's a touch screen as well for the HVAC system in the center of the dash. It's beautifully well laid out. It's very user-friendly. It's easy to learn and understand how to use everything and get to the features. It's got new world-first technologies in it called like road active noise cancellation. So consider it a large set of Bose or another brand's noise-canceling headphones you might wear on a plane and a flight. This will do that for you. It'll read the sound coming into the cabin of the vehicle from the road noise outside, and it creates instantaneously the absolute opposite sound wave to counteract that sound and quiet it out. It's beautiful.
I love the fact that also you've put in some extras in this where there's you have 3 world's first technologies, and that's one of them is the road noise canceling. What are the other 2?
Another one is the active motion driver's seat. So you've got 7 air bladders in the driver's seat. As you're driving on a long drive, the seat will adjust itself and inflate, deflate those bladders to make sure you're comfortable in the seat, so it's more comfortable for a long drive. And the third one, frankly, I can't remember it. Which one are you referring to?
I think there was 3 world firsts I do remember there, but I'll probably work out what it was.
I'm sure there's at least 3.
Yeah, at least 3.
The car's, it's got so many features that it's hard to commit them all to memory at this point. I've got to get more time with the vehicle and really learn it through and through. Absolutely.
I was surprised that Genesis decided to do a 3-year service guarantee with their vehicles. So does that mean that that you just for 3 years you take it back to your Genesis dealer and he will take care of those scheduled maintenance?
We've had that for years, Nick. We've had that as long as we've been a brand for 4.5 years now. We've had complimentary scheduled service, scheduled maintenance, as well as service valet. So when you own a Genesis vehicle, any model, GV80 or any of the sedans, at this point, you simply make an appointment with your service dealer for a service visit, whether it's customer pay or a warranty visit, and they come and bring you a loaner car, pick up your vehicle, take it into the shop for the service or repairs that it needs, then bring it back to you afterwards and pick up their loaner vehicle. You don't even have to see the dealership. All that time you used to sit in waiting rooms at dealerships are no longer. You can go play golf, you can get work done, you can spend time with your family, and it's a fabulous thing. We have over 84% of our customers take us up on this service valet offer across the country.
I love that.
For the service visit.
I love that. One of the things that some people have a hard time with these vehicles is sort of maneuvering them in city streets, but you guys made that easier with the remote smart park assist and your sort of basically suite of safety features. Is this the first time that we've seen something like this?
It is. I don't know that it's the very first time, but because other vehicles in the past have had parking capabilities of various sorts. But I tease my friends at Hyundai, at our sister Hyundai brand, because they had a wonderful ad in the Super Bowl, all but Boston accent, smart park, to promote the smart park and the Sonata, which is great. And our GV80, of course, has smart park as well. But here's what's cool about it. Our GV80 will also parallel park automatically. So we have what I call super smart park.
A super smart park.
that regularly.
I feel like Kevin with a Genesis. It should maybe have an English accent, like super smart, super smart park. Yeah, super smart park.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of technology in this. There's a lot of cool stuff. It looks really good. There's a nice big engines. You have a 2.5 liter turbocharged engine, or you can experience the available 3.5 liter twin turbo engine. However, how is this thing going to handle on some rough roads? Is it going to be a thrill to drive, maybe in the gravel and the snow?
You know what I'm told? I frankly haven't driven it yet myself because I missed. We had a drive out of our proving grounds. When I was back in Miami, they had a drive in the proving grounds that I missed, and I'm told by my colleagues that did experience that drive, they drove, of course, fabulously well on road. The chassis dynamics are all top-notch, achieved and developed by our head of research and development, Albert Bierman, and his team of cohorts. They do beautiful work for on-road presence, but also what surprised my colleagues, and would do so myself as well, is when they took it off-road, they said it was extremely capable off-road, like Land Rover capable off-road.
Wow. Wow.
That's a surprising attribute of the vehicle. I'm anxious to experience myself.
I'm ready and anxious to experience it myself, Mr. Smith, and I shall be looking forward to your email inviting me to do so. Let's just switch slightly to the New York show, hoping that that's after the cancellation of Geneva, hoping that that's going to go ahead. Traditionally, Genesis have always had a big presence in New York. It's an important market for them, New York, or for you in New York. It's a luxury market. It's where you show off a lot of your wares there. Should we be holding our breath for the New York Auto Show?
You absolutely should be holding your breath for the New York Auto Show. I spoke with one of the representatives of the New York show yesterday on the phone, and he assured me that the show will go on as planned. At least that's the plan for now.
Right.
We'll see what happens in the weeks ahead. But they plan to move forward with the show. We have big plans for New York, as we typically do. Those plans in the past 4 years have always included consistently concept vehicle reveals in New York. I will tell you, it won't be a concept that we reveal this year. It'll be something for production, and it'll
That's
be a
exciting.
global reveal of the vehicle.
You've got me anticipating now. I will look forward to that. I'm going to take a wild guess that it could be something that ends in 80, but we'll find out. We'll find out about that. Kevin, it's always a great pleasure to have you on to talk about the Genesis product. The GV80 will be arriving this summer, late summer, at dealerships. You should at least test drive it, even if you are looking for something else. Fill up your life with test drives. They're free and they're fun. There's some really good stuff coming up on the show. You don't want to miss what we've got for you next.
You're listening to the Our Auto Expert podcast.
Locally created, nationally celebrated. From the Northwest and Southeast, this is America's Car Radio Show. If it has a throttle, we'll feature it on air, online, on mobile, or on smart speaker. This is Our Auto Expert. I'm your host, Nick Miles, with Truck Girl Jen in the studio today. Many of us do not like the cold weather. In fact, we like the warm weather. Jen doesn't like cold. Her body doesn't like cold. She doesn't like being wet. There's a lot of things Jen doesn't like. She doesn't like cars. She likes trucks.
What? Wait. No, I like cars.
Specific cars.
Fast ones.
You are difficult.
What?
Capital D difficult.
No, I am not.
Yeah, you are.
No. How?
You are.
How?
I don't want to drive anything but a Chevy.
No, that's not true. Rolls Royce, McLaren.
I don't like electric cars.
Ferrari.
See where we're going with this? So a lot of people don't like cold, but one person elected to go and get their backside frozen off, and that is our friend Jeff Zurschmeide. He is preparing for the Alcan rally. Are you actually on the rally now, Jeff, or are you started yet, or are you
We've been on the rally for 4 days. We're in Whitehorse, Yukon territory today, and heading up to a town called Dawson City later today, this afternoon. We've been rallying competitively for 4 days. We're sitting 12th overall out of about 40 cars.
Way to go!
And we wish we were higher, but we'll take it. We think we're doing pretty good, and we're just having a great time. It is so beautiful up here. And yes, it is cold. It was 18 below this morning.
I saw your photos.
And, boo, by the way, boo.
Yeah. Well, that's it is what it is. You come up here for the snow, it's going to be cold. But we've been seeing some amazing mountains and vistas up here, and the wildlife has been incredible. Yesterday alone we saw bighorn sheep and tons of bison.
Oh.
Probably about 100 bison altogether, and some caribou.
Wow. All right. Well, that's what happens to you if you go to Canada. You have to see caribou.
Yes, we see caribou. We eat the poutine. It's all good.
Give me a sort of synopsis of the Alcan Rally for someone that's not familiar with it.
Okay, you leave from Seattle, and we head north, and we come all the way up through BC, British Columbia, which most people don't know is bigger than California.
Uh-huh.
And then when you finally reach the far north, we're up here about 60 degrees north at Whitehorse. And then we continue on up, and we cross into the Northwest Territories, and we stay the night in a town called Inuvik, which is north of the Arctic Circle. We'll cross the Arctic Circle tomorrow. And then we go on up further to the shore of the Arctic Ocean. So think of it as the north coast of North America, in a little town called Tuktoyaktuk. And we stand, we look at the ice, and then we turn around and we drive back.
As fast as you can.
This rally, and we end this rally in Anchorage on next Friday, a week from yesterday. And so we're going to come back down through Inuvik, through Whitehorse, and then go over to Fairbanks, Alaska, and then down to Anchorage to end. But along the way, we've got hot springs. We also yesterday soaked ourselves in a hot spring in British Columbia, and we've got another hot spring visit planned in Alaska while we're there.
All right. Is this a timed rally, so you have to hit certain points at certain times, or how does it work?
Yeah. Yeah, they give you an average speed to maintain along a road, and then they time you at various points on the road. And if you know the time you're supposed to leave, and you know the average speed you're supposed to maintain, you can predict to within a second when you should arrive at any given point on the road. And so they time us, and for every second that you're early or late, you get a penalty point. So it's like golf. Low score wins.
Wow.
And we've been at it for 4 days now. It's quite a challenge to maintain an average speed along a road, especially when it's snowy and you're climbing a hill or descending a hill. And it's quite fun, and we're having a great time.
So what has put you in 12th position? Did you miss time a couple of stop points, or how did that work?
Yeah, we just sometimes you're driving along and you just get a little optimistic with your throttle and you end up early. Sometimes you get slowed up by it could be local traffic, it could be a hill you have to climb or something like that. Bad snowstorm, and you end up a little late. But we're doing okay. We're actually not far off of podium contention. The third and fourth place cars are just right with us on points. And so if we have a really good day today, we can maybe overtake them and get into podium position.
So presumably, if you have the stopwatch sitting there, you can go. We're due there in like 12 seconds. You can slow down to a crawl and then punch it across the line.
That is exactly my job. I am the navigator of the team, and I basically yell at the other two guys to speed up or slow down. It's great. If you enjoy backseat driving, you'd love being a rally navigator.
Can you give me a little experience of that, Jeff? Can you yell at me like I'm going too fast?
Please.
Okay. Say we are coming up on your mark. See that sign up ahead? That's your mark in 20, in 15. No, slow down, you're early. No, I mean slow. And then we cross the line, and I said, perfect, right on the dot. Now maintain the cast. The cast is the average speed. Maintain the average now. And I'll give you another, we call them a hack. Whenever you reach a fixed point where you know the time you're supposed to be, it's called a hack. And I'll give you another hack when we in another mile when we cross the next mark.
Jeff, if that's you yelling at somebody, I'd like to see when you're absolutely furious.
If I'm absolutely furious, I might say fiddlesticks.
Hey, Jeff, now this is your second time, is that correct?
This is my second time up here in the north on the Alcan Rally. I went once before in 2008, had a great time, finished third in class back then, and ninth overall in that year's rally, and had a great time.
All right. Jeff Zurschmeide's on the Alcan Rally right now. Maybe I should give him some yelling lessons a little bit, and he could yell. He could be yelling, you know.
No, we're supposed to be cheering him on.
Slow down! No! Slow down!
Go, Jeff.
More Our Auto Experts coming up on the show. Don't forget the website, ourautoexpert.com.
You're listening to Our Auto Expert.
Catch previous episodes of the show at our website, ourautoexpert.com. You can hear the past shows, see our automotive videos, read insider car stories about your next ride. You'll find them all at ourautoexpert.com. This is where 2 million Americans get their automotive news every single day. Toyota have been hitting it out of the park with the Camry for over 15 years now. This has been the best-selling sedan in America. It's one of my choices of best sedans on the American market. I have chosen 4 of those this year. We'll be revealing those next week, but we're teasing you with it this week. So the Toyota Camry, for the first time, gets all-wheel drive, developed and assembled in the United States exclusively for North America, available as a standalone option as most model grades, exemplifies fuel efficiency with a 202 horsepower engine, and of course is on the same TNGA platform that the RAV4 is on. That's Toyota's brand new platform. We thought we'd get somebody on who knows way more about this vehicle to talk to us. It's the gentleman who chief engineered it, Mark DeJongh. He chief engineered the Avalon and the Camry all-wheel drive and advanced vehicle projects. Mark, first of all, it's been a long time coming to get this vehicle to market, but you seem to have managed to still be the best seller in the segment without all-wheel drive. Presumably this is going to make a lot of people above the Mason-Dixon line very happy.
Yeah, I think so. So it's been since 1991 when we had our Camry All-Track, and so that's been quite a while ago. But we're listening, and we're listening to our customers, and we're hearing that they want all-wheel drive, the confidence that they can get from that all-wheel drive system. So we're bringing that to the Camry and the Avalon vehicles.
It was probably fairly easy to put this together, I'm guessing. I mean, as easy as engineering any other car, because you already had the TNGA platform, which this was sort of adapted with all-wheel drive as a possibility in mind.
Yeah, the TNGA is one of the beauties of TNGA, is we're able to take that RAV4 drivetrain and all-wheel drive system. We're also taking the rear suspension member from all-wheel drive, and we're putting it into Camry and Avalon. And we're doing it, as you mentioned, fairly easily, some minor modifications here and there. The center tunnel area on Camry and Avalon needed a little bit of a bump out, so a few changes there to allow room for that prop shaft to go down the center of the vehicle. We also had to create a new saddle tank, fuel tank for the vehicle, again to allow room for the prop shaft. But yeah, overall, it's definitely one of the beauties of TNGA to be able to do this pretty quickly.
Let's talk about the development and testing of this vehicle, because obviously when I look at RAV4 and I look at Camry seems to be so much of a bigger vehicle, not taller necessarily, but it sort of seems to be wider and bigger. But the fact is that they're not that far apart, really, are they?
They're really not. They both ride on our K platform. We do have a K sedan platform and a K SUV platform, and so there are some slight variations in the floor height. But what we're able to do is take suspensions and to move them around and keep them, whether it's in the SUV or in the sedan, we're able to interchange them pretty easily.
How does the performance change in this vehicle? Because I know that when you change engine sizes or you change from a two-wheel drive or a rear-wheel or front-wheel drive to an all-wheel drive, there's a lot of testing that needs to take place. Not only testing to make sure that it handles like a Toyota, it handles like a Camry, that people that are used to those vehicles won't notice anything but improvements in them. But at the same time, you've got to do a lot of crash testing and a lot of testing to make sure that this vehicle can manage in really harsh conditions.
Yeah, absolutely. When you think about the front-wheel drive Camry and the difference for the all-wheel drive, one of the big changes is that prop shaft running down the center of the vehicle. And if you think of a rear impact, now the rear impact is going to be quite different when you have a prop shaft that's now part of the absorption structure or something that's in the way. So we've still got to do some of the crash testing that we do in a major program, but not as much. So it's fewer amount of evaluations, it's fewer amount of testing, but it's still got to be done. One of the big evaluations that we spent a lot of time on was the traction control system and trying to tune that in correctly. And, with a front-wheel drive system, sometimes the front wheels will, the engine will detune and the front wheels will stop spinning. But with the all-wheel drive system, we really wanted to be able to keep the rear wheels going and keep it spinning and let the vehicle do what it wants to do to get you where you want to be.
I think that when I think of, Camry, you want someone that wants a dependable vehicle that you can go out into the garage and start every time, that you're going to have a vehicle that needs less maintenance, is still fun and still exciting. Were those the things that what were the main core evaluations that you wanted to make?
Yeah, we really wanted the confidence and natural feeling when you drive the vehicle. When we see one of the reasons people are moving from sedans to SUVs is for that confidence of all-wheel drive. So we wanted to bring that confidence into the sedan. So it's this natural and confident feeling. Every time you get in the car is going to do exactly what you expect it to do and what you want it to do, and it's going to go where you want it to go, where you expect it to go.
You have been working on Camry for a while, haven't you?
I've been on Camry for a while, but I've been on Avalon quite a bit longer than that.
So now the Avalon also gets the same treatment. Let's talk a little bit about that. Was it really plug and play for the Avalon as well?
Camry led the development, and Avalon was behind by about 6 months. So once we got Camry going, Avalon fell in line pretty quickly and was quite a bit simpler than Camry, just because we could now carry over some of those crash evaluations that we did on Camry. Now we don't have to do that on Avalon because we've already proved out the system.
It doesn't seem to have stopped buyers. I know this isn't necessarily an engineering question, but it doesn't seem to have stopped buyers who live in states which have horrendous winters where it gets very cold and very snowy. They seem to be quite happy to buy Camry without all-wheel drive, but they were telling you that they wanted a Camry with all-wheel drive?
Yeah, we're definitely hearing from the customers that they do want this all-wheel drive system. And we're expecting about a 15 to 20% take rate around the country for the all-wheel drive system. But in our northern areas, we're expecting a lot higher. We're already hearing from dealers that some dealers want to order a lot more than just the 15%. They're looking at 60% or more of the take rate simply for the all-wheel drive system.
How did you test it? Where did you go? Did you go some Arctic places to put this on the road and to do some ice testing in the vehicle?
Well, we did all of the engineering work in Michigan, and northern Michigan is blessed with lots of snow and cold. So we did a lot of our evaluations in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan in the Houghton area, and that provided plenty of what we needed for the cold and snow.
Yeah, no, Upper Michigan and UP seems to be where a lot of people have their test centers, especially for winter driving. So, that worked out. Is there a premium? Is it expensive to get the all-wheel drive system?
With the Camry, it's a $1,400 difference between a front-wheel drive system and an all-wheel drive system, and that holds true from the LE grade, XLE grade, SC, and XSC. All of them are a $1,400 price change. So the LE all-wheel drive will now start at $26,370. That's for Camry. For Avalon, it's a little bit of a different story. We don't have a standalone L4 in the Avalon. We have a V6, then we have the L4 hybrid system. So when we look at the V6 versus an L4 all-wheel drive Camry, we're not releasing MSRP right now, but our target is to have the same MSRP for either option, either the V6 or L4 all-wheel drive, same price.
It seems to me that it would be a lot more expensive than $1,400 to develop this for each car, but it seems like good value. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, again, that's one of the beauties of the TNGA, right? So we've got RAV4, and RAV4 has done a lot of the development, and we can carry over a lot of that development work that's already been done.
Well, I'm getting to drive the new Camry from Chicago to Milwaukee to Indianapolis this coming week, so I'll let you know how it does in the inclement weather. Mark, thanks for taking some time out to join us today. If you want to test drive the new Camrys, they'll be arriving with the all-wheel drive into dealerships as we speak, as well as the new Avalon doing the same. You can also find out more about these vehicles at ourautoexpert.com. More show coming up. Wait till you see what we're going to say about stuff next.
You're listening to the Our Auto Expert podcast.
Our Auto Expert is on Facebook. It's on Twitter. We are on Instagrams. And you can start a conversation with us or send us a question. Just direct message us at Our Auto Expert on all of the top media platforms. Every week he joins us on the phone to talk about what the latest news is on Wall Street, in the back rooms of all these car companies with electrics and autonomous cars. He's an independent analyst and investor. Anton Wahlman is his name. You can read his stuff, much of it, at Seeking Alpha and also The Street. So, Anton, it's been an extremely busy week for us. We should be hard sought after radio show not to talk about the fact that shares have had a tough week. How did automotive companies fare in all the share tumbles?
Well, the automotive sector, of course, is going to be meaningfully hurt in the short term on average across the world as a result of the fact that over the last 15 to 20 years in particular, the supply chain of all the parts and components that go into manufacturing automobiles has become so integrated that if there is a disruption at any place in the world for any reason whatsoever, it doesn't matter whether it's a virus or a war or something else, or even a handful of ships that were to dive straight down into the ocean, it's going to have an impact on manufacturing, and that is exactly what we're seeing. The supply shock that has come from inside China is already impacting manufacturing of automobiles in a variety of plants all around the world.
So $11.4 billion is what we buy from China in car parts in the United States. Other countries are considerably less than that. Do we have the most to lose from China not being able to supply parts because of their factories shutting down because of the coronavirus?
All other things equal, the answer is yes. So in a car where there are many thousands of parts and components and other subsystems, all it takes is for one part to be missing, and that assembly line is not moving forward. So to the extent that manufacturing in the United States, on average, is more dependent at some part in the food chain leading up to that final assembly line on what's going on in China, then yes, indeed, we are going to be impacted from that. But we have also seen shutdowns or near shutdowns or soon to be shutdowns all over the world from this, ranging from South Korea, where the manufacturing line that makes the Hyundai Palisade has been shut down. We've seen a Fiat factory in Croatia being shut down. We've seen warnings from Jaguar Land Rover in the United Kingdom. And all it takes is that one little thing that eventually traces itself back to China, and there's going to be a problem.
Let's talk a little bit about the future coming out of this, presumably that we recover without problems from this coronavirus. Ultimately, you know, these viruses tend to come and go. We haven't seen it quite to this scale, but they come and go. So what happens in the future? Do we try and disperse our reliability on China and start making parts elsewhere? What do you think the outcome is going to be long term?
Well, clearly there's going to be an intensified look at how do we possibly minimize this scenario in the future. The problem there is that there are no really easy answers, because just because on this particular occasion a bug like this originated in China, what's there not to say that next time around, let's say that the manufacturing, the food chain is more heavily reliant on Brazil, Mexico, Alabama, Russia, pick any place in the world. Well, what happens next time around when some bug originates over there? So, you know, this is a little bit of a whack-a-mole. So this time it was China, but maybe you have to make the assumption that the next bug will also originate in China for this to become a viable, sound strategy to diversify away from China for this particular reason. Otherwise, you're not really improving the chances for surviving what's going to come next, whether in a year from now or in a decade from now.
In the 45 seconds that we have left before the break, does this mean ultimately that we're going to end up paying more because China's clearly the cheapest place to have these things made? Is it going to mean that prices of things are going to start to increase?
Correct. We're going to pay more for two reasons. First of all, the cost of the components will have to go up. And secondly, in the short term, the sheer quantity of output, the supply in the supply-demand equation will shrink, leading to higher prices. So, yes, we will pay more. If you're buying a car, if you're going to be in the market, probably time to go out and buy one as soon as possible because all other things equal, this will push prices up.
Does it make a difference where we buy a car from, or whether that person will have the spare parts if we need them in 5 years?
Nah, that's too difficult to gamble out of. If you want anything particular, I'm just encouraging people to move a little bit faster based on this, all other things equal, because supplies may be a little more scarce in the coming months.
All right, Anton Wahlman is with us. When we come back, we're going to talk about NTSB. They had some reports going on, the Tesla Model Y. Tesla sends out an email. We're going to tell you what that contained, plus have a look at European car market that's coming up.
You're listening to Our Auto Expert. Are you thinking about changing your car? Read some of the most informative car reporting and see videos that talk about the newest technology, the latest cars. You can even download the nation's car radio podcast at ourautoexpert.com. He's on the phone with us. He joins us every single week to talk about the automotive industry, Anton Wahlman. He's an independent analyst and investor. You can read the majority of his stuff at Seeking Alpha or The Street. Anton, NTSB had some reporting on Tesla this week, which was pretty shocking.
Yeah, so the NTSB, the National Traffic Safety Board, which investigate accidents involving cars and airplanes and so forth, they basically they've been investigating accidents that involved Tesla's use of autopilot and so-called full self-driving technology, which isn't actually full self-driving, but they call it that anyway. And they specifically investigated 4 such accidents that have taken place over the last couple of years. And they explained how these investigations take place. They ask the automakers some questions, and then eventually they tell the automakers that you've done this or that wrong, and you have to fix this because what you're doing isn't right. And an automaker has 90 days to respond to the NTSB. And they said, well, all automakers always respond within 90 days and follow their directives, except one. And that one company is Tesla, which they said they have yet to even receive a response for. And it's been, as of the time of their press conference, which was held a few days ago, they said had now gone 881 days and no word from Tesla. So they were very dismayed by the fact that NTSB was simply not responding to their commands.
All right, so Tesla have a bit of a, especially Elon Musk, but Tesla also have a bit of a reputation for disobeying and going against the grain with the government. Is there any penalty for them not responding?
So far, the answer appears to be no. It was mysteriously missing, really, from that press conference. Any word on, all right, you've told us now that the company is simply not in compliance, that they have gone almost essentially 10 times as long as they are allowed to before addressing these concerns. And what have you done about it? And unless I completely missed something, the answer is they haven't done anything about it. And therein resides a big part of the mystery. I mean, is it okay if everybody just goes ahead and ignores these people?
What is there to stimulate anybody else to do reporting if Tesla doesn't bother? Why should Waymo or why should anybody else start reporting if Tesla can't be bothered to do it?
Well, that's the big question. I mean, every company normally says that if you get a letter from a court or a 3 or 4 letter government agency of some sort, you'd better respond in time. At the end of the day, you may have a disagreement about the conclusion or anything like that, and then you voice your disagreement accordingly, but at least you respond. And in this case, such responses, we are told, appear to be simply missing. And this is a very, very big mystery that you have to wonder why is no action being taken to essentially compel the company to respond. And I really don't have that answer for you.
Okay, well, Tesla getting away with it looks like. On the good news for them, the Model Y deliveries begin probably around March 13th.
That's right. So the Model Y was introduced on, I think it was March 14 a year ago, in 2019. And the company is on track to make the first delivery just under the 1 year mark of that introduction. So they've been building probably a couple hundred or so of these Model Ys already, and stand prepared, it appears, to deliver them here within the next 2 weeks. So that'll mark an important step for the company, given the fact that this is a very attractive and very popular body style and size that Tesla thus far has not addressed head on. So that'll be very interesting to see. And the thing is, though, that what is the true demand for the product, even though you think that logically it should be higher than any Tesla product to date, given the inherent attractiveness of the body style. But at the same time, the company is just sending out emails to people who had opted for configurations of the vehicle, such as the 3-row version that wouldn't come out until 2021, to say, hey, if you reserve one, change your reservation to to be a regular 2-row 5-passenger version, we can make it this spring already for you. And if the company can essentially put you near the front of the line here and make the car already this spring, you really have to question as to how many people really have placed orders for the Model Y.
Let's talk about that, because Tesla had a reputation with the Model 3 of only really supplying those people that did the full orders, the highly contented orders initially. But it seems to be the other way around. Perhaps the Model 3 with 3 rows hasn't really been tooled up and ready to go at the factory. Perhaps that's going to happen later. Does this mean that they're sort of doing the opposite now? They're offering the less contented vehicles first?
Well, it's not necessarily less content, and I think that if you look at the way that the Model Y looks, and for those of us who had a chance to inspect it in person, this is not a large vehicle. If you think about it, it's basically the size of, at best, the Volkswagen Tiguan that we are buying here in the U.S. that has an optional 3rd row. That 3rd row is ultra tiny. You and I would have a hard time getting in that 3rd row without serious convulsions. And in the Model Y, I think that they would probably not want that model to get out there very quickly, because it would really show that that 3rd row is almost unusable for almost any practical purpose whatsoever. So I think that what they're simply trying to do is that, while saying that the car is capable of being a 3rd row, they really don't want to manufacture and sell the 3rd row version, but rather the people who put an initial deposit on it, they are really encouraged to just go with a 2-row version instead, and I think that's what the company's trying to do right now.
We got to spend a little bit of time this week together in Canada. We were up there for the Volkswagen Atlas Cross Sport launch, driving it in the snow around Whistler. But while we were there, we sat and had breakfast together, and you showed me a report from Tesla that they had only reported doing 12 miles of self-driving testing in California in 2019. That seems awfully low compared to the competition. How does this look, and why are they only reporting 12 miles?
Oh, this is absolutely crazy, of course. Every year, an automaker that conducts testing of self-driving vehicle inside the state of California needs to file a report at the end of the year saying, here's how many miles we drove with a self-driving vehicle, and then how many disengagements were there? In other words, how many times did the driver have to take over because they thought that it would have been unsafe had they not taken over? And in Tesla's case, they said that they had driven a grand total of 12 miles in 2019, and there were no disengagements during that time. And of course, this is a bit perplexing, given the fact that Tesla probably ought to be testing a lot of self-driving vehicles, given the fact that they've promised 1 million robotaxis on the roads here by April of this year, which is it's laughable to us, but nevertheless, they have really not been conducting any testing in California. So what does this mean? Does it mean that they have been conducting testing outside of California? That sounds crazy, given the fact that Tesla obviously is based in California and conducts most of its testing there. Or is it simply that they define their testing differently? And that is clearly the answer here. The company is conducting all sorts of testing, but chooses not to define such testing as being self-driving, which of course then undermines, or at least ought to undermine, their claim that they are doing a good job at getting closer and closer to these 1 million robotaxis. So this really goes to tell you that the companies are really free to use whatever language they want to describe things in the manner that suits them at that particular moment.
Now, in sort of playing devil's advocate a little bit here, a lot of people are doing their testing in Arizona, which is a much more friendly state to be testing some of these autonomous cars. Is there any possibility that Tesla could have just done all their testing in Arizona?
It's possible, but in this case, less likely. I mean, the companies that have been doing most of their testing there, as far as we know, are in particular Waymo, which is considered the industry leader. Even in California, Waymo had done well over 1 million miles. I forget the exact number now from the top of my head, but it was significantly larger. It was in the millions of miles.
Yeah, 1.48 million, I think it was.
That's right. It was 1.5 million miles or so in California. So they do also a lot of their stuff, of course, in and around certain areas of Phoenix. But it just defies logic that Tesla, with such a very large portion of their installed base in California, wouldn't have tested this out. Keep in mind that it is Tesla that says that we can use our existing customer fleet to really test this thing out, because we basically shadow our customers and we learn from them, and basically we call it swarm learning or whatever, that we simply learn from our drivers in the way that they take a curve, and then it gets automatically inputted into the computer how you should take this curve and at what speed and at what angle and so forth. So it just doesn't make sense with the way that Tesla describes its alleged product development superiority, that they haven't been conducting this testing mostly in California.
All right, European car sales are in, the numbers are in. We can see who the big winners and losers are. So who are the big winners and who are the big losers?
Yeah, so we're talking here primarily about electric cars, because that's where the movement is in the market, and we're trying to see how the new market shares are developing. And the numbers so far in the calendar year 2020 show that Renault, with their Zoe car, is the leader, and the second best-selling car in Europe has been the Peugeot 208. And if you notice carefully, these two cars are cars that are not sold in the U.S., have never been sold in the U.S., and that most people in the U.S. have never heard of. So the market in Europe is developing very, very differently than the electric car market has been developing as of late here in the United States. So when we look at the world and we're looking at which companies are going to lead in the evolution to electric cars, we need to really remember and take this as a source of humility, that the market in Europe is developing very differently under our feet right now than it does here in the United States, and that there are cars that are sold in Europe that we will never see here in the United States.
Polestar on track to deliver their Polestar 1 in the U.S. by the end of April.
Yeah, this is a car made in China, believe it or not, in Chengdu, China. So this is a very expensive vehicle. Of course, Polestar is the luxury brand of Volvos, and they basically make this car in Chengdu, China, and they made some limited quantity of this very expensive car. It starts at about $155,000, and these cars have arrived in the United States and are being prepped for delivery over the next month and a half, and will be delivered by the end of April to customers here in the United States. So we will have a China-made, very expensive, high-end plug-in hybrid vehicle delivered here in the United States here very, very shortly.
All right, what about the Polestar 2?
Polestar 2 is the all-electric vehicle that will cost a lot less. Fully loaded, it will start just a hair over $60,000, with future versions being sold a year or two from now in the low to mid-40s. But those deliveries will not start here in the U.S. until July or so, because manufacturing was supposed to start last Monday, but was postponed to this upcoming Monday, and we'll see if that actually happens or not in China as well, in a different factory in China, in southern China along the coast. And those cars will first be sold in China, then in Europe, and then finally in the United States here in the early to mid part of the third quarter of this year. But that is sort of a direct competitor to the Tesla Model 3 and the Tesla Model Y.
When will we be able to buy a Tesla Model 2 in a showroom in the United States?
A Tesla Model 2?
I mean a Polestar Model 2, sorry.
Polestar 2 is scheduled to arrive in the United States at the end of July at this moment, but seeing is this is China right now, and we have a very fluid and very sensitive sort of macroeconomic and political situation going on there. Don't bet the farm on that, and sort of assume that the probability of some sort of delay is probably on the high side. But that's where the schedule currently stands, and we'll know more here in just a matter of a few days from now.
Anton Wahlman, independent analyst and investor. You can read his stuff at The Street or Seeking Alpha, and all of our stuff is at ourautoexpert.com.
You've been listening to Our Auto Expert with Nick Miles. Find all the show episodes at ourautoexpert.com. Please follow us on all social media, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Our Auto Expert, and message us for a quick and witty response.